Hello, I'm David Broadhead and welcome once again to this special edition of the business programme here on Kirklees Local TV. There's little doubt that football and Formula One are huge global businesses. In fact, many would argue that they are businesses first and sporting events second, but whatever your views, the financial figures are eye-watering. The English Premier League leads the way with a projected turnover of £5 billion in the 2018-19 season, leading to an average turnover per club of £250 million. But perhaps one of the greatest aspects of sport is always the potential for the underdog to spring a surprise. How many so-called pundits predicted England reaching the World Cup semi-finals this summer? But more importantly, how many of them were surprised by Huddersfield Town's performance in their debut Premier League season in 2017-18 and their dogged refusal to roll over and be easily relegated as the pundits had so confidently predicted? If you have a keen interest in football, business and are proud of our local community here in Kirklees, then today's guest has probably the most envious and challenging job of any of my guests to date. He is of course Sean Jarvis, Commercial Director of Huddersfield Town. Sean, thank you so much for finding the time to join us today in what must be a manically busy period, given that we're only within days of kicking off the new Premier League season. I described your role as both one to be envious of, but also incredibly challenging. Is it as exciting and glamorous as it sounds? But more intriguingly, is there such a thing as a typical day, and just what does the role involve?
Yeah, great question. I think I often liken it to almost Disneyland, where from the outside it looks truly amazing. There's the magic that associated to it. Yeah. But actually on the inside, there's an awful lot of work going on behind the scenes to make sure that we are, I guess, ready for that match on a Saturday afternoon. And my wife once asked me, well, what's it like? What is it you do? And I sort of said, well, I'm very good at delegation. That's one thing I am good at. But it's a bit like holding a party on a Saturday, whereby through the week you then got to plan for that party on the Saturday. So you've got to get the food ready, you've got to invite the customers, you've got to get the music ready, you've got to make sure when people arrive they know where to go. So it's incredibly busy leading up to those match games, and then you repeat that effectively 19 times. So yeah, it's a very envious job, and there's not many commercial directors, Premier League commercial directors out there. So I'm very fortunate, I'm very lucky, but by the same token, it's a tough job, it's hard work.
Yeah. Is it what you'd always dreamed of doing, and what have been the career steps that have helped you to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I actually trained to be a teacher, believe it or not.
Okay.
When
slightly different career change.
Yeah, absolutely. A teacher of maths and economics was my background. But then there was a lot of changes in education back then, a long time ago, and I felt it wasn't right for me. So I ended up working for an advertising agency in Leeds. So I learned about branding, about marketing, about sort of sales promotion, all those sorts of things. And that put me in good stead. And I did that for a number of years. Sort of that was my apprenticeship, if you like, the foundations to my career. And then I got approached by Oldham Athletic, and Oldham Athletic had a chat with me, and next thing I know, I'm working for them. And I worked there for about 8 years over the hills in Oldham. And that was a real challenge. That was very much kind of hand to mouth, making sure that the club survived. And for a short period of time, I actually owned the football club and steered it through a very difficult period. And then I did 8 years there, and then I came across the borders to where I live and worked, of course, for Huddersfield Town. I've been there for 13 years now, working with Dean Hoyle, and gradually building Huddersfield Town from what was, when I joined, a team that was languishing in the first division to now being a Premier League team. So it's been a long, hard journey, but I'm delighted where we are. And I keep saying to people that our story's not over yet. There's still more to come. And everybody at that football club worked extremely hard, from the manager, David, to the players, to the staff behind the scenes, to make sure that Huddersfield Town progresses and gets better and better each time.
So the average Premier League club has on average a capacity of just over 40,000,
Yep.
and 50% of income comes through match day activities. Given that Huddersfield's capacity is down around the 24,000 mark, that must make the need to drive the average income of 30% from commercial activities even more imperative if the club's going to challenge successfully longer term. What opportunities are there currently in place for local businesses to become involved with the club through either sponsorship and partnerships?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a big challenge for us. You know, when you look at the likes of Manchester United, Liverpool, you know, they can boast 80,000, 60,000 people at their stadiums. So it's a challenge for us with 24,000 people. I have to say we're selling in week in, week out, which is absolutely fantastic. And the challenge now for us is not necessarily filling the stadium, it's our global footprint.
Yeah.
So it's actually how we take Huddersfield Town to a wider audience, which is great. And the Premier League brings billions of people watching it. Now, the key is that in that period of time, we've had some international businesses join the family that is Huddersfield Town, that sponsors of Huddersfield Town. But equally, we've stuck by our businesses that have supported us throughout the past decade and beyond, that have enjoyed the journey, been part of the journey. Yeah. So we want them to be part of what we're trying to achieve. So we want their brands to be exposed to this global audience. So we're very keen, and coming back to your question, we're very keen for the local business community to actually seize the day, carpe diem, in trying to get involved in Huddersfield Town. And they can get involved in a number of ways. Even with a budget of zero, they can join our Enterprise Academy. Or if they've got some budgets, they can then spend that on raising their profile throughout advertising, the programme, LED screens, sponsoring stands, whatever it might be. That gives them the opportunity. Obviously, the bigger the budget, the more profile they can have. But I think from a very standing start, they can join with little or no cost and be part of the family. And we want that to happen. So for us, the opportunity is there, and we want them to come forward, as we do not just Huddersfield, but Kirklees and Yorkshire businesses. As we're the only Yorkshire Premier League team, then we want Yorkshire to celebrate in our success and put Yorkshire on the map.
Yeah, which sort of links into my next question, really, in terms of Huddersfield Town had 4 international players at the recent World Cup, an international sports betting company as shirt sponsor, and weekly international TV coverage. How much of an impact is that actually having now on the commercial aspect of the club?
Yeah, quite a phenomenal impact, really. And we're sort of seeing, only today we've seen an organisation chat to us who are based in London but have offices around the world, and they're wanting to use Huddersfield Town as a platform to bigger audiences because they are described as a challenger brand, and we're very much a sort of challenger brand in the Premier League. We're the ones with the, I think you mentioned it, dogged spirit, and they want to be associated to us, so that's great. So for us, we embrace them. We want them to be part of the family. We want them to be part of Huddersfield and not just be a one-hit wonder and be associated to us. We want them to be here for a long term and be part of the community. Our shirt sponsor, he absolutely loves Huddersfield Town. He's based in Singapore, but he is desperate to come to a game and stand on the cowshed terraces, as we call it, and be part of it. And I think that's what we want. We want people, not necessarily just from Huddersfield, but from around the world, this global footprint, to actually be part of Huddersfield Town. And I'll give you a little story. Last year, I was walking from the training ground to the stadium, and an American gentleman shouted me. He obviously recognised who I was, and he was covered in scarves, hat, shirts, had a chat to me. He was from Utah, he's American from Utah. Right. Never ever been to the UK before. He'd seen Huddersfield Town on TV, HBC programme all about Terrier Spirit and David Wagner and the football club, and he decided that's the team for me. So he came over to watch, I think it might have been Crystal Palace game, came over to watch Huddersfield Town versus Crystal Palace. Now, if you talk to Visit Britain, those individuals that actually come over from overseas, they spend on average around about £400 on that day, which is then in bars, restaurants and the football club. So you can sort of see attracting those individuals can only help the local economy. We want that more and more and more. This year we're seeing a lot more groups from Scandinavia. Denmark, we're very big in Denmark. We have Germans that come over. So if we can attract these kind of people into the stadium and be part of Huddersfield Town, then that's only good for the local economy.
There is a huge international publicity wave here, isn't there, that's being developed. Do you think local enterprise and local government, for that matter, is doing all it can to benefit from what the club is doing? I mean, to me, there doesn't seem to be a no limits mentality being demonstrated by them, sadly.
Yeah. I think it's a great question, and I agree with your point. I see some organisations grabbing the mantle and having a go.
Yeah.
I would say I don't see enough, and I recently did an article for the Yorkshire Post about businesses of Yorkshire. You must seize this opportunity. Of course, I hope we're in the Premier League for years to come and we are successful in the Premier League, but they've got to make hay while the sun shines. And I think this is a weakness of the business community, not necessarily just in Huddersfield, but in Kirklees and Yorkshire. They tend to keep their light under a bushel.
Well-kept secrets, aren't we?
Oh,
That's the problem.
and it's such a shame because they have there are some amazing stories in and around Huddersfield, Kirklees, Yorkshire. And I just encourage them to actually shout and build their brand. And I think it's a weakness that we have here.
Yeah.
And I would really encourage those businesses to talk to us. We've got staff there that will help, will guide. And you may think we don't have big budgets. You may think, I just want to be involved to see how it goes. That's fine. We'll sit down, we'll chat with you and talk about the opportunities in which you can get the most out of Huddersfield Town. Yeah. Even if that is just a knowledge transfer of some of the businesses that are associated to us. We're really, really desperate for those kind of businesses to step up to the fold because we think that will be good for the economy. So don't sit back, come forward, chat to us. We don't bite.
Is that how the Enterprise Academy's working, or just how's that functioning now?
Yeah, the Enterprise Academy is in association with Kirklees College, and we run that roughly once a quarter. There's no hard or set fast rules to it, and we've had a series of debates about the local economy, debates about international growth, debates about well-being in the business was the latest one. And I think for us, we want to get businesses to share their expertise with each other. What we're seeing is circa 100 people turn up to those events. And even if they take away one little nugget from those events, that can only be a good thing. Yeah. That can only be a good thing. So we're happy to do those sorts of events for businesses that maybe are a little bit nervous about getting involved with a football club, maybe don't have the big budgets, but can then start to sort of see how other businesses are benefiting from being associated to the club. And it's a softly approach. We, of course, have a number of other things that we undertake at the club that people can get involved in. We have bike rides for charity, we have entrepreneurs evenings, we have all these different things that are there for people to be associated to the club with. And once they get comfortable and then feel, yeah, okay, I can get more involved, then we'll walk them through the path. We've had businesses that have started very small and now sponsoring to high levels and getting a return on their investment. And that's very important to us as well. The partnerships associated with the club, we want them to actually be long-term partners so that their businesses benefit from being associated with us.
So it's a two-way relationship, it's not
without
one way.
Without question. And I always think that has been the biggest criticism of football clubs, is that football clubs kind of go, yeah, give me a budget, thank you very much, watch the game.
That's it.
We don't want that. Yeah. It's about, okay, we understand that you want to invest in the football club, but we understand your objectives. Yeah. What are your objectives? What is it you want to achieve? And then we'll do everything we can to try and achieve those objectives. Yeah. Naturally, the more you spend, the bigger bang for your buck that you would get. Yeah. But for us, it's about the success of those businesses as well. If they can be associated with us, be successful, then it's a win-win situation. The last thing we want is them to not be successful. We want this local business community to thrive and to develop and become part of a very strong network that is this part of Yorkshire and beyond. We have our Huddersfield 100, which is an incredibly powerful network. And we work with those to sort of see how we can develop it further. And year on year, we've been doing it 10 years now, year on year, they're quite a powerful movement. And I'd love to do a study with how much, I guess, the economy has benefited through these businesses being associated with each other. I'll give you an example. Our shirt sponsor invested 6 figures into a number of initiatives that we've done. We had a partners lunch, we had a firework display down at the training ground. Yeah. So he's investing in the local economy. That can only be a good thing, and we want people of the local economy to benefit from that.
There must be a nice doctoral research subject there for somebody to undertake at some point.
I would think so, yeah. It would be fascinating to sort of see. I mean, there are studies out there that study the impacts of the local economy being in the Premier League. And I think it'd be nice to sort of see the impact of the partnerships and how they work together.
Yeah. But it's not just about business, is it? The clubs have been very proactive in supporting local charities through various activities like Pedal for Pounds and the new Walk for Wilson that's just coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
How much has been raised in total? And are there any updates on where next year's cycle ride is going to be starting from?
Oh, if I told you that, I'm sworn you'd have to kill me.
Okay,
I am sworn secrecy. But
we know where it's ending.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've raised circa £3 million through a variety of different charity events that we've done. We of course have our foundation. And our foundation is about supporting the local community, particularly younger people, so children who are less fortunate than ourselves. Yes. We do the breakfast clubs, and we have fed, I think it's nearly 1.5 million children breakfasts through and that's done by the support of local businesses. So if businesses have a CSR approach, they can get associated with us. Yeah. They club together, we can do more bang again for our buck. The Pedal for Pounds, incredibly successful. Number 9 was superb and arguably the best this year. We had, I think, around about 200 cyclists that cycled through France and Belgium, the Meningates, the Wargraves, back to Huddersfield, and we'll have raised 200,000 from that one bike ride. So the community is one of our pillars. So we talked about the business there. The community and what we can do for the community is incredibly important to us. Dean Hoyle, very philanthropic. That filters through to the football club. The football club want to do all it can for the community. And I think in years gone by, the football club has been there as a place where it's not really contributed anything back. In the past 10 years, I would say it's been such a key player in the community with the breakfast clubs, with the bike rides, players visiting schools. There is so much that is not reported on what, and people, I still get people saying to me, what do Huddersfield Town do for the community?
Exactly.
If you just looked a little bit harder, you'd see that it's an incredible player in the community, and we want to do more. We've launched our Go For It grants now. So we're encouraging groups around our community to bid for up to £1,000 from the Town Foundation, so we can actually give you a little bit of cash to make initiatives grow. So we're doing a lot and we want to do more, and we'll continue to support the community in every way we can.
Changing tack slightly, I too was at Wembley and felt the wave of emotion as Chris Schindler's penalty went in. And I'll never forget my son and I just looking at each other and saying, has that really just happened? Yeah. Oh, that's the sanitised version of it anyway. Yeah. How long did it take for you to go from euphoria to reality as the implications of what being in the Premier League really meant? Or had you got every contingency carefully planned in advance?
You know, I think it's still sinking into this day. The moment Chris scored that penalty, the euphoria was I was behind Dean Hoyle, and I don't know if you saw TV. People talk
exactly.
about it. He collapsed.
Collapsed. Yeah.
He collapsed to the ground.
I think Patrick Stewart had left, hadn't he, at that point?
Yeah, he'd forgotten the count of the penalties. Yeah. You may have seen on the big screen there was a heart monitor that was attached to me.
Yeah.
My heart rate went up to 182
yeah.
During that game. So to achieve what we did against all odds was truly amazing. Truly amazing. To put Huddersfield in the Premier League after 40 odd years of being outside it was a monumental achievement. Monumental achievement. It's still sinking into this day. The moment we got promoted, I drove back to Huddersfield. We partied in Huddersfield that night. But I can guarantee you, from the moment I left Wembley to the moment I arrived in Huddersfield, I was on the phone, not while driving, through Bluetooth, I hasten to add, through different deals that were coming in that we'd got all planned up, ready for the Premier League. And it was just a haze of work and euphoria and celebration. And to this day, I still watch the penalties. Yeah. And I still get nervous when Chris is going to score that final one. But truly amazing. And I think to achieve what we did last year as well.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. You know, that was against all odds again. And I think this is the thing with the club. We've, over the past 10 years, and with David, the manager, we've identified our true identity, which is the Terrier spirit, the dogged approach, the underdogs, the challengers. And I think as long as we can embrace that, then that is important for Huddersfield Town. We'll continue to be successful. We must never lose sight of that. Equally, I would say to our fans, do not become complacent. They were magnificent last year. The atmosphere that they brought to that stadium was, in my opinion, second to none. I've been to Old Trafford, I've been to Anfield, to Stamford Bridge. None of them can match that atmosphere. Now, for me, that atmosphere helped our players secure those points. And I think if there's one message I would say to our fan base is don't let up. Do that again this year, because that will help that team be successful. If for any moment you think, I'm getting complacent, second season syndrome, please shake it out yourself, shout, scream. Even if we're struggling, shout, scream, keep it going, because that is incredibly special. There is no other team, in my opinion, that can match that kind of atmosphere that we brought to that stadium last year.
I'd agree with that. And talking about the second season, I was at the fixtures launch recently, and Dean Hoyle, the owner and chairman, commented that if a club was to get relegated, then the first season was by far the easiest to manage around, financially and contractually. As a club enters its second season now, how much emphasis and contingency planning do you have to put around risk management, like relegation? Well, let's be optimistic, competing in the Champions League.
Now you're talking. Yeah, now you're talking. Yeah, it's a huge part of the business structure. We have a very strong board at Huddersfield Town. Not big, but there's a lot of skill sets in there. You know, I think with people like Dean, who's managed a huge business in the card factory, him and his colleagues know how to manage sort of financial parts of it. We equally are trying to build the commercial revenues and the global footprint, and you've seen Twitter and social media, how that's grown. I mean, Ramadan Sobhi has got 1.4 million followers on Twitter. So we've got to use that to try and build our profile bigger and bigger, so that it continually tracks investment into the club. We have to manage it very carefully, and we micromanage finances, and we're very careful. It's been incredibly tough this year because of the World Cup, and we're the second year of the Premier League, so people think we've got lots more money, but it's all about that management. And we've always sort of said that it's incredibly important to manage it in the right way. So should we drop, then we're in a good position to make sure that Huddersfield Town has a fighting chance to come back. Do I think we drop? No. I think we're a stronger, better side. We were on a very steep learning curve last year. We've recruited some magnificent players in Terence Congolo, Eric Durham, Janina Bakuna, Ramadan Sobi. So there is a good foundation for us to build on and progress. I'm very optimistic, and I think Huddersfield Town will bring that great colour against the Premier League and actually do very, very well next year. The manager is exceptional, so we're a club that is going forward, and for the past 13 years, that's what we try to do, bit by bit, move forward.
You said it's been a steep learning curve. How different have you found it operating in the Premier League compared to the Championship? And how have you had to change and develop? And what do you think's been your steepest learning curve?
Yeah, the learning curve was huge. I talk about these 13 years. This, what we call the new era, was the new era. It's not so much new anymore, but we've progressively, each year, we've kind of picked off projects that we can develop and advance the club. We, of course, got to Wembley, got promoted, so the learning curve went almost hockey stick shape.
Yeah, exponential straight away.
Yeah, and that was huge. So we had to learn quick. And the Premier League came, and they've been exceptional. They've held our hand right the way through the process. So we've been learning all the time. Me personally, I've now not necessarily just speaking to local businesses, you start speaking to global businesses. And that has been very, very interesting. They're no different to what we have here. I just wish our businesses would stand up and shout a little bit more. Yeah. They're equally as good as these global businesses. For me personally, I've learnt a lot more about different territories. I've learnt a lot about Germany. I've learnt about China, Denmark. I've literally had a conversation this afternoon where we're looking to do a deal in Denmark with selling our shirts. So of course we've got three great players, Zanka, Billing and Lossell. Yep. So there's three great assets, and if we can sell shirts in Denmark through one of their retailers, that can only be a good thing. So I'm learning all the time, and I think I've spoken to the likes of Leicester City, Burnley, Arsenal. I was on the phone to Arsenal the other day, and you share that knowledge. And for me, it's how you embrace that knowledge and then bring it to the table at Huddersfield so that we can progress. We're by nowhere means there yet, and we've still got an awful lot of work to do. We're a limited resource, we're a small team, but we're developing all the time. And I think for us, it's about how we pick the gold nuggets, implement them, and make sure that Huddersfield Town becomes stronger and better going forward.
And of course, we've got Australia, Morocco, Egypt in there. So when do we get Brazil and Argentina?
Yeah, hopefully soon. Yeah, Australia is a great example. Yeah. With Aaron, the likes of Aaron. If you'd have seen the World Cup and how many times we were mentioned, Huddersfield was mentioned in the World Cup. In fact, John Champion, one of the commentators, sent me a message through Twitter saying, can you give me some stats on XYZ so I can actually talk about Huddersfield Town with confidence? So you can sort of see, our relationships with the media are improving all the time. And that can only be a good thing. And our profile in places like Australia is only growing. And what we want is an Australian fan who may like Aaron Moy, but then he becomes a Terrier. Exactly. He becomes a Huddersfield Town fan. Yep. So, once Aaron finishes his career, and hopefully he's with us for years to come because he's a fantastic player, we still have that Australian who's a fan. Yeah. And I was on the phone to Melbourne Victory, not long back, and they talk very fondly of Huddersfield Town and say it's great that you're making real inroads into the Premier League and you're a global club now for a town that's in the north. So if Melbourne are talking about us, then you can guarantee other parts of the world are as well.
Obviously football's a team sport, both on and off field of play. What challenges have the commercial team had to overcome as they've rapidly expanded, and how have they developed in such a short space of time? Because it's not just about you, is it? It's a massive team there.
That's right, the team effort. That I think is for the staff within the club, particularly the commercial staff, has arguably been their biggest challenge to adapt to that change. Over the past 2 years, we were averaging maybe 12,000. Then we really developed our initiatives with communicating to different groups to build the crowd up to 20. Combined with success, that worked really, really well. Then we got into the Premier League, so it went up to 24,000 capacity. But the staff size has not got any bigger. So they've had to cope with those increased demands. And that's been really tough for them. And they've worked so hard over the past 2 years. And it's great that Dupois scores against Chelsea. And we love that. But it's, the unsung heroes behind the scenes, the likes of Tracy Nelson, Sue Beaumont, John Williams, these people who have been there a long time, who are working tirelessly to make sure that the club works as hard as it can, as best as it can, to try and build all the time. And growth has got to be managed. It's hard to do, but these guys have worked really hard and done a great job, I have to say.
Club has to share the ground. Slightly contentious question this. Yeah. The club has to share the ground with the Giants, and it also operates as an independent venue. Given the state of the pitch following the Little Mix concert recently, and other stadium management issues that are out of your control, is that something that might change in the future, or is no comment the best answer on that one?
I would never give no comment. I think for us, it is a joint venture. It's a joint venture between the council, the rugby club, and of course the football club. And there are difficulties in managing that relationship, but we seem to work through them. There are ongoing discussions about how it can be improved. I think with us being in the Premier League, we bring a lot more to the table now. You're seeing this global attraction to Huddersfield. Long may that continue. And I think we can bring something extra. So those kind of discussions are to be encouraged. And we do. We have 2 representatives on the KSDL board. And I think for us, we want that to happen more and more so that everybody can benefit. We have still got a journey to go. We're in the top division now, but I still say some of our best work is to come.
Yes.
So we want to bring more. The pitch was unfortunate. I think I would say the stadium company will learn from that. I would think, subject to future concerts, then they'll be aware of that issue. From what I've seen, we had that huge thunderstorm, and now we've got the sunshine out there. And I think for me, that's kind of helping rain and sun. So I'm hoping that pitch looks the bee's knees when it comes to that game versus Chelsea.
And of course, we've got HD1 coming along as well, which just further complicates the issue. But final question. I can relax by watching football as one of my pastimes, as if it is relaxing. Yeah. How do you relax and unwind whenever you can find the time?
Yeah, it's usually a bottle of wine, I think. So, my relaxation is probably done through golf. 4 hours on a golf course. My phone's in the bag. People who I play with, I tell them not to talk about football.
Yes.
So we have a good round, and that's it. I've got a very understanding wife and a very demanding 12-year-old that likes my time, so they give me a bit of release as well. And then when I go away on holiday, I usually have 2 weeks to chill down, switch off. So for me, that's the best way to charge the batteries. But you always keep one eye on Huddersfield. It's 24/7, 365 a year. But I always sort of say that when I've been involved in Huddersfield Town and football, I haven't worked a single day, but I've never worked harder, if you understand what that means. It's like a hobby.
There's an expression in there, every day is a holiday, but some of them you get paid.
Correct,
and I think that's how it's got to be.
Exactly. And we're incredibly passionate. Somebody asked me a great question the other day. Have you lost your enthusiasm for Huddersfield Town after all this time? 13 years on, I said to them, I'm more enthusiastic now than I've ever been. The moment I walked through the doors at the stadium, I wanted to achieve. I wanted us to be successful, and that hasn't changed. Yeah, we're faced with challenges up and down through, and pressures on there, but we are successful, and that's what I want us to be successful, to be a team that's collective, to be in it together and actually drive and move that club forward. So when our time comes that we've handed it over to somebody else, it's in a great position and they can take it further.
Brilliant. That's so refreshing to hear. Thanks ever so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your thoughts and experience with us today. What's going to be the footballing surprise of 2019, I wonder? I've placed my bet at 1,500 to 1 on Huddersfield Town winning the Premier League. You just never know. However, in the meantime, I look forward to seeing you next time here on the business programme on Kirklees Local TV. Goodbye.